Do you ever feel like parenting today has turned into an endless checklist? Safety rules, perfect snacks, scheduled activities, and just the right amount of screen time. What if some of that isn't necessary? What if by overthinking everything, we are actually making parenting harder than it needs to be? Welcome to Andisheh Parenting. I'm Andisheh, a software engineer, and with me is my friend Sara, an architect. We love everything about parenting. Together, we have spent years reading parenting books, talking to experts, and building a strong foundation of knowledge about child development and psychology. You can find out more about Sara's work on unstructured play in nature and play-based learning at Nature Play Group on Instagram. In this episode, we'll dive into Lenore Skenazy's book, Free Range Kids. Here's the thing, we are not here to champion every idea in this book. While we appreciate some of Skenazy's points, like encouraging independence in kids, we also approach her arguments critically. Sara and I will break down her ideas, sharing what resonates, what feels questionable, and where we think a healthy middle ground lies. Stick with us as we explore free-range kids, the good, the debatable, and the thought-provoking, and see what takeaways might or might not fit your parenting journey. Hi, Sara, and thank you for joining me.
I'm super excited. Thanks for having me. I am looking forward to our discussion today.
Same. Okay, let's get started. We want to talk about the free range book by Lenore Skenazy. So I thought I start with like very little small bio about Lenore and see how she ended up writing this book. She is a journalist. Now she is mostly famous for her movement of free range kids, but what happened was in 2008, she wrote a column, I think in the New York Daily News, about how she let her 9-year-old son explore the subway, New York subway by himself, where she suddenly was announced as America's worst mom. She embraced the criticism. I love that about her. She embraced the criticism to promote her philosophy of fostering independence in children. She's the founder of Free Range blog, Free Range Kids blog, and a nonprofit Let Grow, which we will talk about. The Let Grow, I really like how, I think it's a really valuable organization that she founded. And all her book is about encouraging parents to pursue independence in their children and resilience building in children. So I kind of organized her book in different topics because I think each of these topics might have, we both might have some comments about it, but let's get into it. I think the thing that is mostly emphasized in her book is misjudging risk and overprotectiveness of parents today. She basically compares the modern parenting to the old generation of parents. And she believes that we are unable to estimate risk accurately. And for that, she compares the probability of different incidents like abduction, like kids murder, these numbers to the past. And she says, the world is safer today, but our parents they were more comfortable letting children go, play unsupervised outdoor, use the public bathroom, take their bike to go into the neighborhood, into other blocks that they cannot see them, things that are really hard for us to do. And she believes this stems from us having, the news being available for us, all the bad news and TV shows with exaggerated rate of threats. That's why we always think threat is there. So this is one of the main things that even if you go on YouTube and look at her interviews, this is the main thing that she talks about, that we are more anxious, although world today is safer than before. why our parents were like that and let go. So we should let go too.
Yeah, that's
I
what I
want
mean
us to, yeah, to
too.
stop here and talk about this point a little bit.
Yeah, sorry, I'll just jump in.
Do that, please.
I was going through a trail of her writing in the New York Times, and there were actually like quite a few articles. And in those as well, the main argument revolved around this idea of the real world being safer these days. And it's actually the virtual world that is more dangerous now for kids. And one thing in this argument that I found interesting is this idea that it's only been in the past 100 years that we've been exposed to hyper-realistic images, like you said, TV productions, movies, news, and now content that's like literally in our pockets. Like every time you go on to kind of image and video-based social media, it's not hard to come across scary or stressful or anxiety-inducing. And while logically we might think that, oh, this is like a one-off thing, but our reptilian brain that's in charge of keeping us safe, that's basically like that part of our brain is a remnant of our history as a species. And that reptilian brain is completely incapable of kind of analyzing. That's not its job. Its job is to like find or assess a risk, notice a risk, and just trigger our body to react. And I think that's really like a critical piece. So yes, we can go on and on talking about how this is just the news and we're overexposed to it, but there is an underlying kind of brain science fact that our brain and our body are just kind of incapable of like logically assessing the risk based on statistics.
And, thank you for bringing that up, the evolutionary part of, this discussion, because I don't agree that if our parents were in our time right now, they wouldn't do like a similar, they would do like the same thing that they were doing before. The society was different, at least for my own experience. I remember that, in our street, yeah, we were playing unsupervised outside, but there were like dozen other kids on the street. If right now I let my kid go outside, she's the only one. Of course, my brain will tell me this is not safe and you have to be there watching her. The other thing I remember, we had like every neighborhood had those ladies that didn't have anything to do other than watching from the windows. We called them sheriffs. So you had like 3 neighbors and many parents that occasionally would watch the kids from the window, and those like 2 ladies who were always at the window. So there were many eyes on like how many dozens of kids playing around on the street. And for example, if I was going to the supermarket, first of all, supermarket was like 50 steps away. It was a very small supermarket, and everybody from my house to that supermarket knew us, knew my parents, knew me. So it was a very different environment. As a result, I don't agree that we shouldn't, listen to our intuition, to like what our brain it might be the overexposing the news might have an effect on my decision, on my anxiety level, but there are many other important things that have the same effect. Like, as you said, my reptilian brain is supposed to keep me safe. So I find this a little bit dangerous to tell to the parents that, oh, ignore that feeling and just let them go. I give an example I'm one of those parents who actually really support free range kids. This is the very, I have disagreement with points of the book. This is one of it. I let my daughter use public bathroom in some of the restaurants that we go, and I totally trust my common sense. Looking at the restaurant, looking at the people around it, I just use my common sense. Okay, I'm close enough to the bathroom. She can explore. What is she afraid of? Is she afraid of exploring the place? This is also different. If she's afraid of exploring and I feel safe here, I push her to explore and go find the bathroom by yourself. This is what I do. But my behavior is different in different locations, different restaurants. And I believe that we should listen to our common sense for this specific case.
I have this story, And I'm actually really curious to see what you think about it. My kid and I have an almost 4-year-old. We were waiting in line, get on this horse-drawn carriage, and we had a bunch of time. My kid really wanted to wait by the carriages, watch the horses. The carriage driver was feeding the horses and like gently talking to them. And that was really interesting to my kid. And there were a bunch of other people just waiting, same as us, to get on the carriage. And we were in a pedestrian zone in the park. There was a parking lot close by, but the area that the horses were in was car free. I really needed to go to the washroom. So I'm like, hey, kiddo, like, let's go. I really need to use the washroom. And he's like, I'm okay just standing here. I just want to watch the horses. And so it's really just a matter of like seconds that, again, like that reptilian brain and just overall your body is like, you're in that space. So you can't really explain what the process is. You're just kind of absorbing everything and making a decision in a split second whether this is safe or not. And I look at the carriage driver, the little concession stand, and I'm like, are you sure? I'm just going to be like a few steps over there. I'm just going to use the washroom for a second and be right back. And he's like, oh yeah, I'm sure. Go for it. And so that was the first time that I like didn't have him in my sight for a few seconds, and my heart was like beating out of my chest. It was a really special experience for us. I'm sure for him, just observing how safe he feels in the world. And for me, as Lenore puts it in her book multiple times, to just like take that, what feels like a risk, just take it and see what happens. And after you do, you're going to feel better for the next time that you want to do it. And that's exactly what happened. But we came home and I was like so excited and proud to like tell my husband about this story. And he's like, you did what? Like, he's not even 4. And I tried to explain to him like why I thought that situation was okay, but I couldn't. Like, I couldn't explain why I thought that space that he was in was safe. He wasn't convinced, and he was like, yeah, we need to talk about this a bit more. So anyway, success in my books, but I don't think everyone agrees.
I hear you. And I don't think you can convince anyone because it's a feeling, as you said, you know. The only thing that concerned myself, like, because I had a talk with my husband as well. I'm like, in most of the situations, we have the same common sense on what we should do. There was one situation that we didn't have it. When we thought about it, you know, it didn't make too much of a difference. It's like, in my opinion, there is an area that like you can make a decision that is not wrong. You should just be careful. Don't step out of just let go, like too free, too risky, and just don't be too protective. In a certain range of decisions, there are decisions of both let's protect him and not protect him is not wrong. But I want to get to the next point to continue on this discussion. The next point that she brings up is blaming the parents. And, you know, in my opinion, this has two sides to it, but I'm going to explain what she describes. And I think as parents, we have seen that being judged. Parents are judged based on how their kids turn out, right? And that is not right, in my opinion. It's just, first of all, like, there's genetics, there's like, and at any age, kids are different. I remember when I didn't have kids and I would see, like, I had first of all, we didn't take care of other kids when we were teenagers. So my first experience with a child was when I had a baby, unlike many other previous generations. So when I saw like a kid 2-3 years old in a supermarket having a tantrum, I was like, oh, I'm gonna just do this and do that, and my baby is not. And then I had a baby and we had to run in the supermarket or not just take her, you know. Then I was like, okay, nothing is like experience in your face. I have been in a situation that I was afraid to say what I did as a parent because I was afraid of being judged regarding screen time, regarding the snack that I give my child. As she says, if you are so obsessed with these rules, you will lose the big picture and if you see that as a little, if you come outside of this, bubble that you created with these rules, you can see that, yes, it's important, but it's not going to affect your child that badly. So blaming parents and judging parents based on what they do is a common thing that I think it's happening. And I agree with this point. It's not always your fault what's happening, but there is a difference in different, experiences between the cost of that experience. If your intuition and your common sense was wrong, let's say. So I led my daughter to go up a tree. If she falls down, the cost would be that worst case scenario, she might break her leg. We will go to the hospital. It's not good, repairable. It's okay. We can fix it. But when I leave my kid for example, at the situation that you described, again, there is a chance that something happens. The thing is, if something happens, in this case, the cost is very high. Yeah, most likely nothing gonna happen, but 1 in a million, if something happens, the cost is high. That's my point. And there's one thing that she says in her book, that it's not always your fault. I disagree with that. It's always your fault. I'm taking the risk. If my daughter breaks her leg, it's my fault. If she's abducted or anything happens to her, it's my fault, because I am responsible for her safety. So if I go with her to the public bathroom, she's 7, the cost is she's gonna be independent 2 years later than what I anticipated, I expected. There are situations that I take that cost over this one.
Yeah, I completely agree that we as parents are responsible for their safety. And if something happens, it's on us. I kind of build on what you just said about, the cost is just for her to go to the bathroom independently in 2 years. And that's like, in the grand scheme of things, nothing. And yeah, I kind of want to build on that. In my mind, it's not about these individual experiences. And I mentioned this before, about helping our children feel safe in the world. And that doesn't necessarily come with setting them free out in the wild. I believe that is something that's built from the moment they're born, through attachment, through responding to their calls, to their cries, through comforting them, through validating their feelings and talking about their anxieties, so that they're able to A, acknowledge a sense of discomfort, and B, to like sit with it and see how it passes and the things that they can do about it. And it's in these like little day-to-day moments that kind of seem irrelevant to being adventurous and independent, but it's actually with this foundation that this sense of safety in the world, this sense of confidence builds and grows within our children. And that is how they will feel empowered to be independent and do things on their own. And I'm seeing it in my own child, and that's how I was brought up as well. I lived in a very dense urban area, and I didn't necessarily have the opportunity to play in a pack of kids like in the woods, but never in my life did I have any reservation to do anything by myself. And I just felt like I could do it. So I think that's like a really critical piece that I don't know if she necessarily really talked about it, like the early years and how the experiences in those years.
I don't remember that, but I cannot agree more with you, Sara. The secure attachment is the one that you pointed out, basically. I still understand her, kind of her trying to push parents to let go of the children, because I have seen parents that are more anxious about even small things. I don't know if you remember that. I think this was very, at least from the people around me in our like the Persian culture, when a toddler is running or a kid is running, it's out of nowhere your autopilot brain would say, don't run, you're gonna fall. And then I'm like, oh, they should run because they're gonna fall. That's the point of running.
It's their job to fall as toddlers. They pick themselves up, and their bodies are built for it. Yeah.
So I think I like her pushing parents towards letting your kids experience things like cooking. My 7-year-old, like the other day, I had to put my baby to sleep. And we were in the middle of making pancakes. And I said, can you just take care of these pancakes by yourself and finish it? She was like, yeah. She can easily use the, stove and cook pancakes. And again, the cost if something goes wrong with that, because I'm going to be there like in 15 minutes, is that she's going to burn herself. And she has actually burned herself sometime. The first 2 times were like, oh, this was so bad. But the fourth time she was like, it's just a burn, So I agree with her when she tries to push parents to some extent. Again, at some point, I think the cost is too high. And I think at those points, we should kind of rely on our common sense. Let's talk about her nonprofit, because I think it's related to this point right now. She has a nonprofit called Let Grow, and she has a program that after school, they have a certain amount of time that kids of different ages are playing unsupervised, in the meaning of it's not guided by adults. So the whole play is guided by kids, and I think you have the most expertise in that because of your focus on nature play, Sara. So I would love to hear about that. So it's a really good thing that is happening, and it's I really like her pushing towards that, and her nonprofit. This is really valuable, and I feel what she's trying to do is kind of faking what we used to have on the streets as a community, and she's marketing this, which is really good. But I think there's something that if she markets, that is a better, it would have a better result in terms of letting our children actually experience this. This is again faking what used to happen in the past. But if actually your community, like on the street, there are several kids, I don't know how you can market that. But in Toronto, when we were even living in Toronto, by luck, our street was like that. And there were several kids on the street. And I would let my daughter play unsupervised. Here, I won't let her play unsupervised because she's the only kid on the street. And once in a while, I check from the window. I know other parents do the same thing. Exactly. We didn't fake it. It happened. And I'm like, can we market that? Because that's actually the thing that is very aligned with her philosophy and with my philosophy. I think the unsupervised play and managed and guided by the kids, and they were different ages. They were teenagers helping younger kids, 6 and 7, put them on a wagon and take them around, and it's really fun for them. She has learned, for example, about bragging. Bragging is not good. Mom, did you know this is bragging? She's learning a lot of things from older kids. So I think this is a more important thing to market, rather than don't listen to your common sense, just send your kids outside unsupervised. I think this is marketing the wrong thing. For the same philosophy, she could market, how can we have a community and how can we make the streets full of kids again? How can we do that? And we start doing that.
Absolutely. I completely agree. The organic, natural play groups that are multi-age and they form on slow, safe streets is filled with potential for learning. Play as the child's work. Like it's the vehicle through which they learn about life and the world. But her advocacy, in terms of the faking the play groups, and then the other side of it for convincing the parents to like try and like bring forward as many statistics as possible to like convince you, which like doesn't work. If it were focused on safe streets and by safe, I want to be very specific. I mean car safety. I've never lived in a suburb. I've always lived in dense urban areas, and it's really a different ball game. The amount of car traffic and even high-speed cars. I mean, the cars don't even really need to go that fast. A tiny little impact can be fatal to a little child, and that's not something that we can control in dense urban areas. There was a study that I think it was through the New York Times podcast. They were talking about fatalities through car accidents and comparing the United States and Europe. They're comparing, developed nations, same kind of economic growth status, same population, same density, but the statistics for the fatalities of car accidents in the United States was like through the roof. And they went through why that's the case. It's not just about having wider streets and speed limits. It's actually about the types of, a lot of it is about the types of cars that people drive in North America. So not just in the States, even here in Canada, you see lots of SUVs, more SUVs than sedans and smaller cars. With these cars, A, the driver is sitting higher up. It's harder for them to see like smaller things on the road, including like small children. And B, because the car is so big, upon impact, it's hitting the upper body and the head area, whereas with smaller cars that are more common in Europe because of their narrower streets, it's usually the lower body. So like there's just less risk of fatality. So for me, the biggest worry for letting my kid play out on the street is actually cars. Something that's been happening in our city in Vancouver is there are really just like a handful of streets that the city closes off and creates kind of little cul-de-sacs or little like urban plazas. And I think we need more of them. We need more car-free zones. I think that's the key for creating these kinds of communities in urban areas, to like kind of unleash the kids out in multi-age packs and just like let them do their thing. Come back
Thank
when the
you.
street lights come on.
That was very interesting. That was never my concern. Interestingly, our street was a square. My daughter could play unsupervised because of the situation. And there were very few cars going around because only neighbors' cars would come to the square, right? I don't know, this is the, what, like 10th time that for some problem, the solution, again, is co-housing. I don't want to get deep into co-housing, but basically like a neighborhood that has a safe, as you said, safe area, and the neighbors know each other. That's it. That's like simply put it. This is one problem. I don't remember the other ones, but I'm pretty sure as we talk other different books, when we come to the solution is a safe neighborhood that kids could just go around safely and, like as you said, car safe. At the same time, neighbors know each other well.
Yeah, creating that sense of a village.
I want to just also point out that I really like that Lenore in her book, she points out small examples of what is like small steps as what you can do to, have more free range kids and have more, like, make them more independent. Let your kid cook. And I don't agree to say ages, because your kid's capabilities, it's different. Let your kid bike around the block if you have it's a square street and you feel like she or he is capable of. Let them watch movies that, like, with you, that you think she is or he is capable of handling that much of scariness. Halloween, let them experience Halloween. Like, don't put too many rules, and step by step. You don't go to a really scary Halloween party at once when they are 4, but step by step, let them get exposed to these stuff, and don't always protect them. So these small examples, I think, are very helpful, and I like that she points them out in her book.
Kids that aren't given freedom are less safe, actually. So through these small little moves, the idea is you're letting your child learn the limits of their own body, their own abilities. And as you slowly scaffold on the exposure, this resilience and sense of independence builds.
Brought up a really good point, and she's bringing it up in her book about making your home safe for babies and kids, right? And I have a baby, 8-month-old baby right now, and I totally agree with her. We don't have gates on the steps. It doesn't mean that I leave him just go around and fall off the steps, but when he wants to go up the stairs, I'm just there. I'm hovering so he doesn't notice, and he goes by himself. Sometimes he fell 1 or 2 steps. Oh my God, watching him was so interesting. Sara, he was falling headfirst on the stairs, and then he kind of tilted his body so it is at the same line of with the stairs, so he doesn't fall more headfirst, and then he could tilt his body back up, and he went up, and he asked me to hold him and so it's like he tried, he failed, and he know this is gonna be painful if he continues. An 8-month-old baby can determine that, and I'm so happy that I'm doing this and I'm letting him do that.
Yeah, for me, I have to go back to the early years again. Our approach to parenting heavily based on respectful parenting and Montessori. So the idea of the Montessori yes space and the prepared environment where you start in the house when they're a baby, the house is a yes space. you prepare the environment that the baby's in, so you don't have to interfere with how they explore the environment. You baby proof the plugs, and really that's about it. Like, yeah, don't have any like super sharp knives or like saws or whatever like hanging around. But other than that, just let them freely explore. It starts then. And don't interfere with a baby's natural gross motor development. The idea of propping a baby up to sit or rolling the baby over. Oh, a huge pet peeve of mine is holding a baby's hands, a baby that's like not walking naturally, holding their hands and helping them to walk. I know everyone does this. I know it's like so hard to resist and it's like cuteness overload, but I just have this huge pet peeve. I can't handle it. So like we didn't do any of this with our kid. As soon as we determined that he didn't have any genetic issues, we just let his natural gross motor unfold. So we would go to the pediatrician's office, and at like 4 months, she would ask us, is he turning from like his backside to his front yet? And we were like, nope, next month. Is he doing that now? Nope. So like he did it. And then in terms of walking, by the time that he was 1, like I knew my kid super well. I could see that he can do it. He's just choosing not to. He's just not feeling confident enough to just let go of everything that he was holding on to. It took months. And like all of a sudden, he just walked. And fast forward to today, this kid never does anything that puts his body at risk because he grew up from the earliest days with the ability to just independently assess what's safe for his body. Like I loved your experience about the steps because they know their body is made for this. They have evolved to keep themselves safe in the world.
Kudos to you for not getting into the competition of my baby could run and could walk, because that's actually really hard to resist.
I couldn't care less. Sorry, can I just interject with a disclaimer? This is not a medical podcast. We are not medical experts. Just listen to your own intuition and common sense. Like I'm not a doctor.
Oh my God, this reminded me of the part of the book about liability. And it's like the reason that many of our kids, like there are too many rules at schools, at any location that you send your kid, it's because of this, that you have to have a disclaimer for everything, a waiver for everything, because there's a possibility that somebody sue you. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, we are not experts. We are just sharing our experience as moms and our philosophy as moms. And whatever you do is your own. Like I think Lenore also put a disclaimer in her book. So we have to all put the disclaimer there. Amazing talk, Sara. I really enjoyed talking to you about this book. This was an amazing book. I'm very glad that Lenore brought this up and brought the discussion up. Beside the criticism that we had and like the good points that we, talked about, this was a great movement. And I'm so happy that she did it. She was really brave. She is really brave to do that. And I'm grateful for her.
Same. I would like to encourage our listeners to go check out Let Grow. If you could please link their website in the show notes so people can just click and check it out. They have a lot of resources. They hold free talks, and it's all to support more freedom and more unstructured, unsupervised play for kids, and the important role of that in their development and mental health.
Thank you. Thank you, Sara.
Thank you so much, Andisheh.
Thank you for sticking with us until the end. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we did. We would love to hear from you. What are your comments? What are your thoughts about the Free Range Kids book? What are your thoughts about the argument we brought up? If you have any comments that you want to share, we would be happy to read it. So please leave us a comment here. And if you have any ideas, any experience, any books that you want to share, definitely send me a message and let's have a talk.